Ejura Dumasi Municipal Chief Executive Mr. Mohammed Salisu Bamba denies involvement in murder of Kaka. Court discharges 38 suspects involved in alleged Western Togoland disturbances. Bank of Ghana's state-of-the-art hospital opens in Accra to provide primary health care and specialized services. And WHO warns Africa as Delta variant of COVID-19 spreads across countries on their continent. The news headline sponsored by Munchie Biscuits, Munch into Happiness. Hello, good evening. This is News live on GBC News. My name is Shirley and Robert Frimpong Manso translates the news into sign language. The local news segment is brought to you by GRA. Shirley? The leadership of Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, has paid a courtesy call on President Akufo-Addo at the Jubilee House in Accra. The president thanked NAT for their support in implementing the free SHS policy and commended the nation's teachers for contributing to the nation's human resource development. He described teachers as one of the important partners of his government with the policy's implementation. The Ejura Dumasi Municipal Chief Executive, Mr. Mohammed Salisu Bamba, has denied playing any role in the death of the social media activist Ibrahim Mohammed, also known as Kaka. He said he had no cause to either warn or threaten him anywhere. In his testimony as the 8th witness in the inquiry into the disturbances at Ejura, the MCE said the late Kaka was known activist of the New Patriotic Party and that accusations against him, Mr. Salisu Bamba, that 2 of the suspects being prosecuted were his personal bodyguards is untrue and part of a plot to incite the people against him.
There were 2 witnesses on day 3 of the ongoing public hearing of the inquiry into the recent disturbances at Ejura in the Ashanti region. The first was the Ejura Dumasi Municipal Chief Executive, Mohammed Salisu, the 7th witness so far. He told the committee that the late Kaka was a known activist of the NPP. According to him, he heard of the violent attack on Kaka on the 27th of June 2021 near his residence at Ejura and later his death while on referral at the Komfonachi Teaching Hospital in Kumasi. Mr. Bamba said he had no justifiable cause to warn or threaten the late Kaka, whose murder served only as a catalyst for the rout, and that he is aware that he was a target of the protesters.
With regards to the death of Kaka, and all the publications were pointing to the fact that the 2 suspects are my bodyguards, all the calls and the communication, and that the deceased is a Fix the Country campaigner, and me representing government on the ground, I'm not happy with his activities. So I told most of the media houses that at this particular moment, what we and the police want is information. So I'll plead with them to give the information they had to the police so that the police can get to the bottom of the issue.
On the role he played in effort to restore peace in the Ejura Township, the MCE said he left the municipality in the morning of June 28, 2021 on an official visit in Accra, and that upon the advice of the Municipal Security Council, he called on the Asante Police Divisional Command for a reinforcement before officially informing the Ashanti Regional Minister about the security situation in the town.
When MUSEC will meet or at our level, we normally fall on them when something is getting out of hand. But if it's something that we can manage at our own level, we don't inform the RECSEC or our bosses.
The 8th witness so far, the medical superintendent of the Jura Government Hospital, Dr. Mensa Menya, told the committee that some persons were rushed into the facility at about noon on the day of the demonstration, complaining that he had been shot. One of them, Abdul Nasser, aged 35, was dead on arrival, while another passed on 10 minutes later. 4 others, including Louise Atepa, 19, and Awan Awal, 16 years, had sustained gunshot injuries. 6 among the casualties were women who had collapsed. Dr. Menya explained diagnosis of the condition of those who had gunshot wounds.
The second person, what I saw was also at the back, at the middle part of the chest, the left area, there were also an injury, gunshot injury at the left, at the middle part of the chest.
He responded to why bodies of the dead were released to the bereaved families without post-mortem, a requirement in criminal circumstances as is being investigated.
Because of the agitation, release the body quickly and reluctantly. I have to release the body to preserve the hospital from being burnt and also save the life of my staff and myself.
The committee had earlier scheduled the full command of the military at Ejura during the protest to testify on the day. However, after hearing from the medical doctor, it adjourned the 3rd day's public hearing to Friday, July 9, without giving reason.
The Ghana Armed Forces has punished all soldiers involved in the brutality against residents of Wa in the Upper West region over a missing mobile phone. Defense Minister Mr. Dominic Nitiwul said some of the military personnel have been demoted while the duty officer will be tried later. Mr. Nitiwul said the punitive action follows an investigation by a 4-member committee which found them guilty of the crime.
The orderly sergeant, who was a staff sergeant, has been reduced to corporal. The trial of the duty officer, who is a lieutenant, will however commence on or before Wednesday, 14th July 2021. All the above trials and punishment are without prejudice to the outcome of the subjects under various forms of investigation. 8 other soldiers who were deeply involved or visibly identified in various videos brutalizing some citizens have been charged, tried, and awarded 30 days each in detention by a disciplinary board chaired by the commanding officer. The remaining soldiers who were also involved in the incident but not identified as brutalizing officers will all be transferred out of the region immediately.
It's in the right direction. The action taken by the minister is commendable. I also think that we need to go further, particularly healing the seemingly damaged relationship between civilians and the military.
While I find the sanctions reassuring, I like to further encourage the minister and to paraphrase his words. The duty of the armed forces is to protect the territorial integrity of our country, not more. And therefore, if in his words, as he said, and Mr. Speaker, again, I paraphrase him, 86 troops were asked to go for a search for a foe. That is not acceptable. That is not their mandate. A few miscreants should not debase the standing of the Ghana Armed Forces as a disciplined, professional entity that owes us a responsibility in keeping the peace, not undermining the peace, and not leading the breakdown of law and order.
Let's now go to the presidency, where the leadership of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, has paid a courtesy call on President Akufo-Addo at the Jubilee House in Accra. The president thanked NAT for their support in implementing the free SHS policy and commended the nation's teachers for contributing to the nation's human resource development. He described teachers as one of the important partners of his government with the policy's implementation.
NAT was at the seat of government to invite the president to the climax of the 90th anniversary of the teachers' body. They congratulated President Akufo-Addo on his re-election. Apart from teaching, NAT is venturing into health to support government efforts. NAT now owns the Sweden-Ghana Medical Center for the treatment of cancer at Ashaluguchi and wants a tax waiver to bring in more equipment.
We want to establish an institute at Abankro to be called NAT Institute for Research and Industrial Relations Studies at Abankro. The welfare of our members is paramount, and they were asking for donation, but we realized that majority of them had issues with cancer. And with the Sweden-Ghana Medical Center established, we started deducting 2 cedis so that we could treat our members who have contracted cancer for free. By the grace of God, the Swedish government had to fold up, and they gave us the first offer. I am happy to inform this house that NAT has fully bought the Sweden-Ghana Medical Center. And so that center is now ours. Yes, now that we have bought it, we also want to upgrade it to make it the best treatment center for cancer in Africa. We also want to set up a PET scan machine. It is a machine that helps with the treatment of cancer. Normally we refer to people to other facilities and it's not the best. And these equipments, very expensive. We wouldn't want to disturb you, Honorable, but at least we want to have a tax waiver.
President Akufo-Addo offered some words of commendation to the teachers and assured them of government support.
Tax waivers is not a matter just for me. I can initiate a process, but ultimately it will end up in the parliament. They are the ones who have the power to do that. But there's a process of doing it. I'm thinking between you and the Minister for Education, you can initiate the process. Having regard to the very significant step you have taken in purchasing this medical center for the treatment of cancer in our country, I think it is the kind of support that government should try and bring to you. So the sooner you can bring the matters up for decision, the quicker we can do it. Yeah.
Established in 1960, NAT is the organized association of teachers in pre-tertiary schools and institutions in Ghana. Among other things, it is duty-bound to unite members and present a unified front to advise government in education policy formulation and implementation.
The Bank of Ghana has opened its €80 million hospital facility to cater for both primary health care and specialized services. The inauguration of the state-of-the-art hospital located at Cantonment in Accra is expected not only to provide world-class service but also make Ghana a preferred destination for medical tourists in the ECOWAS bloc.
It is 34 years now since the Bank of Ghana ventured into the health sector to meet the needs of its staff and Ghanaians. From 1987 to 2020, about 14,000 patients have been attended to by the medical team at the Central Bank's clinic. But with the drive to expand infrastructure at the clinic and provide Ghanaians with a world-class health care, the board of the Bank of Ghana in 2014 approved the construction of this 65-bed hospital located at Cantonment in Accra. The hospital with the cutting-edge technology was built at a cost of €80 million and is expected to complement the effort of government in making Ghana a hub for quality of care in West Africa.
The implementation committee recommended that the hospital should be set up as a commercial entity operating as a general hospital to provide world-class OPD services, diagnostic services, and medical urology. The committee recommended that the hospital needed to be operated via a multidisciplinary teamwork approach, with the clinical business units at the OPD being allowed to generate their own income to meet some of their operational costs.
The chairman of the Council of State, Nana Uchiosrebo, urged the management of the hospital to ensure that the facilities are well maintained.
The manager's expertise, the management of the healthcare facilities should help in ensuring efficient management of the hospital, maintenance of the facilities, and improve the general healthcare system in the country.
The Minister for Health, Mr. Kokwaji Mamenu, said Ghana and South Korea were judged the best by the WHO on the League of Nations that have managed COVID-19 very well. He advised Ghanaians to continue to adhere to the COVID-19 protocols in order not to slip into a third wave of infection. To ensure effective and efficient management, a consortium led by Halcom Management Service of South Africa has been appointed to run a 65-bed hospital for the next 5 years. Edward Nyakun reporting for GBC News.
Today, we're traveling northeastwards of Ghana to Yendi, the capital of the Dagomba people. The city has for centuries hosted and still hosts the overlord of the Dagbon traditional kingdom, the Yana. According to toponymists, experts in the study of place names of all kinds, the name Yendi is derived from the name of an ancient shrine, Yendi, a direct translation of which means, "Where do I eat from?" In the following report, we'll break it all down in Yendi, the capital of the Dagomba, or better pronounced, Dagomba people.
Being one of the major towns, both in terms of historical and economic relevance, any first-time visitor to this ancient town cannot fail to notice the local craftspeople, smoke weavers. The road to Yendi is host to a hilltop known for a historic battle fought with slingshots hundreds of years ago. The town is the traditional capital of the Dagbon Kingdom. The seat of the Yana, literally translated as King of Absolute Power, is a collection of cow skins. Thus, when Dagbamba talk of the political history of Dagbon, they often refer to it as the Yendi skin, not throne or crown. But how did the capital of Dagbon become known as Yendi? For a lesson in history, we turn to senior lecturer of linguistics at the University of Education, Winneba, Dr. Samuel Al-Hassan Isa.
The Yana being the traditional overlord, it was assumed that anybody who said he was going to Naya, obligatorily or necessarily was talking about the Yana. And for that matter, Naya meant town of the chief. But for probably some morphological processes in the language, we get Naya becoming Naya, where we have a situation where there's one vowel that is deleted before the Ya joins the Na. And then in the study of the history of Dagbon, it is argued that there's a very powerful shrine in Yendi, and this Yendi is called Yendiri. And this shrine, anytime they were to sacrifice or to pacify the shrine, they needed a human being to do that. Right? And the name of the shrine, Yendiri, is where Yendi is derived from. Now, there is a question as to whether probably Yendi is likely to mean maybe if the person is sacrificed, where does he get anything to eat again?
Nagbiwa is regarded as the founder of present-day Dagbon. Lacking in a writing culture, the Bamba are one of the cultural groups with a very sophisticated oral culture woven around drums and other musical instruments. Thus, most of its history, until quite recently, has been based on oral tradition with drummers as professional historians. So, according to oral tradition, Dagbon has its genesis in the life story of a legend called Tohazie, translated as the Red Hunter, who lived most of his life in this town. Yendi is not far from Salaga. Salaga was the largest slave market in the northern part of Ghana during the colonial era. However, the people of Yendi pride themselves with the fact that despite the proximity to the slave market, no indigene of this town has ever been engaged in slave trade. Ironically, Babatu, a famous slave raider, lived, died, and was buried in Yendi. This is his tomb. At the peak of the Dagbon chieftaincy conflict, development almost ground to a halt in this town. Fortunately, economic activities are booming again now that peace has returned. Dr. Issa says toponymy, which is the study of origins of names of towns and villages, is important as it helps to remind people of their origins.
There is a link between the past, the present, and even the future. And that is why, as linguists, we feel that we should not just limit ourselves to studying the phonology, the morphology, the syntax, the semantics of the language. We must also look beyond that and see what has made the people to give the name they have given even to their own place of abode.
Whenever you visit Yendi, remember that its original name was Yendri. Where do I eat from?
So how much is one guinea fowl? Oh, that's the way we buy it in Accra. How can I travel from Accra and come and buy guinea fowl for the same price here?
Abdulhai Mumin, GBC News, Yendi.
The Kaneshie District Court has discharged 38 suspects involved in the alleged Western Togoland disturbances. The court, presided over by Madame Rosamond Adjuri Diodua, freed the suspects after the Attorney General's Department advised that the suspects should be set free. It comes exactly 1 week after the same court discharged another group of 11 on July 1 upon the AG's advice, raising the number of the suspects discharged to 49. In court, Detective Inspector Richard Amwa said the prosecution had received advice from the AG's office on the docket, saying there was not sufficient evidence against 38 suspected secessionists. However, another group of 38 have been charged for treason, felony, and conspiracy to commit a crime. They have been remanded into police custody to reappear on July 19, awaiting the bill of indictment from the Attorney General. The brief facts of the case as presented to the court by Detective Inspector Richard Amwa were that the suspects were members of the Western Togoland Front, WTRF, a prohibited organization. According to him, on or before September 25, 2020, the suspects, together with others at large, agreed to secede from the Republic of Ghana. Prosecutors said on 25th September 2020, members of the group armed themselves with offensive weapons and attacked some selected government installations within towns in the Volta and Eastern regions. He said the affected government installations include North Don District Assembly, Aveme and Mepe police stations, and took away a quantity of ammunition and a police patrol vehicle at the Aveme police station. At the district assembly, the suspects forcibly broke into the office and made away with some of his equipment. According to the facts, they unlawfully blocked 4 major roads that connect the Volta region from Accra, while chanting and saying such as, quote, "This is our land," unquote, and obstructed road users' access to the road. Some of the items they are alleged to have seized from the police station have been retrieved.
Still the news on GBC News, your news and governance channel. We have business coming up. Please stay.